name is Lena Tobler, and I'm here to talk about my aunt, Dollie Evans. She was born in Pitts County, and it's a little way up. I read one more tip. You know, if you knew about her, if you knew anybody that knew her, would tell her she was a very hard-working woman. And education she believed in. Anything that she can do to help us to get an education, she would do it. She was, unless my record's not right, you see that she was the first black woman to have a car here in Southport. And when I was little, she had a truck that she would come and pick us up and take us to a blueberry farm on 211, where all those stores is built now. There was a blueberry farm in the 60s. And she would pick us up, and we would go out there and pick berries. And she would say, no playing, pick your berries, we'll play later. So after Mr. Fran and Nixon, they closed down there, it was one on Long Beach. So she came around to gather us again. But this time, she had the tractor. And this wasn't the biggest one that we had. But she always said, listen and learn. Say, if you listen and learn, you can go a long ways. But you know, kids at that age of 9, 10, 11, all we want to do is play. And she would watch us. And as a friend of ours there was, and we used to call her Wee Wee. She was on one side and I was on the other side. And we'd stop playing. And she'd be on the tractor, just tracking on down. And we didn't know she was looking at us. She came over and she put down, she said, I'm not coming again, you know. And so we know not to let it go again. But she was very hard. She taught us a lot about the different things that she worked in, about the blueberries. She taught us the name of the different blueberries, the size of the different blueberries. And most of all, she taught us about that tractor. Something I didn't like, but she taught us about that. And you know, I asked her one day, and I think that's where I made my mistake. I said, how do you get up on that tractor, that long dress and that apron? She just looked at me. She didn't sit down, she just looked at me. So when I got home, you know she had to repeat it. So I got scolded for that. But she was a very, very hard-working lady. Her second husband was with James Evans. He was a lawyer, turned a lawyer, and also a merchant. But one day he was coming home, he had a wreck, and he died. So out back there was one daughter she had a child before he died, Francis, Annie Francis. She lived right here on the house. She was a school teacher. I think she was a fifth or sixth grade. She was the head of my teachers. But she too, she was believing in education. She believed in doing things right. And she taught us, even not in school only, but on the outside. You know, they do in school. But do you take the time outside to stop and correct children? Even if it wasn't no kin to her, she would stop. And then she had a little store, a little grocery store, and a little shop. She said brown dogs. Oh Lord, we still make them today. She used to sell brown dogs and different things in her shop. And then at the back of that, she had a wood pile where she would ship wood and take it down by the water and sell it. And the chips too. So the people that couldn't afford the chips to cook by or to wash by, she gave them to them. She just brought out her way and she gave them to them. And did not process but just about every day. And when she finished, on top of it, she had a little, I would say, a community building where they get up and they talk. And she would put her feet up in the chair and take her pipe and smoke it. Now, they talked about the horse and cut. You know, a lot of them from Bolivia, they was telling me about it, but see, I didn't see the horse and cart. That was a little bit older than I was. But he was telling me about, what she do. She load up the wood on back of the cart. She load up the chips and they go down. And then, right then, I think they changed that name, but anyway, it was right there in front of the water to the church. And that's what she would do her selling her bidding for the wood and for the chips. And she just worked just about all her life. I remember the last time I actually talked to her, she was in the hospital. And you know how old people just sit and tell you something, you don't pay no attention to it. And so she, in her own words, she was saying that I'm not going to be here that much longer. You pay no attention. I didn't anyway. I'll let you know. So when everything comforts, just I'm going. So. But remember her, she was so graceful, but she meant what she said. And her daughter, she married, I can't even think of his name. And she grew up to be one of the best teachers I know in my time. She taught us well. But you know what? First thing she did, she taught us respect. She said, I don't care what you do, what somebody say, have respect. And that would carry you a long ways. And believe it or not, it did. Believe it or not, it did. Of my mama's generation, I'm the 7th generation of it. And when I went to look through some papers, and this is maybe about 10 years ago, and the word came up, and I said, what is this word for? And I would look at our grandfather, and I said, what is it? And then I brought it back, and I spoke to somebody. He said it means that she looks white, but she's black. The same thing they had on my grandfather. He looked white, but he's black. So, but she was a very hard-working woman, very. And she wasn't that big. She was not that big. And she was very, very graceful to her. So I think the people a little older than I am, even myself age growing up, we have a lot to look through what she did and what she set an example for. What she taught her daughters and how she put her daughter through and what her daughter taught behind that. So if we will find an example of these older people, then we'll make it. We all make it. Glory to God. Because I think if you look around now, if she was here, and maybe my granddaddy was here, you wonder where did they go? What did they look like? Like each other. But she was a great. And when the last thing my granddaughter came, she said, Mom, did she get that up the book that she was the second one black in Burns County that had a car? I said, no, that wasn't on there. I said, make sure it's on there now, because somebody could come behind me. She said, well, that's what it said. So I thank God for she doing that. I thank God for finding out all about her store, the community thing that she did outside, the ship of the wood, the church down here, and all the things I found out that I can say thank you. Thank you. Very thank you for letting me meet God. Thank you for the hard work that came down to Luke James.
Thank you.